oh, there's no way. Like, I tried a little bit, and I was like,
It was really
get out of here.
weird. So I was trying like, yeah, so I'm literally turning right. And there's like, and then I would turn like left, and there was like a tree.
Yes, I did.
2:30. I was like 3:30.
So yeah, I went out there like, not until like 6.
Okay.
It's beautiful. There we go.
Really scary. So like, it doesn't even warn you of that. Like, they said,
They wanted me to say something at the beginning, but if not, then that's.
Oh, he started at 7, so, okay.
they sent me home. Just like, okay, just like, report back at home.
Yeah, I literally like walked off the. I was like,
Where did you go?
we went to Baxter.
No, I read the report.
Oh, okay. Was it okay?
Yeah.
Right. Probably was kind of cute, but it also, I just don't know like how much people are gonna.
But where from?
Did you got my text? Okay, cool. Totally fine. I just wanted to let you know. I just wanted to make sure it was out
I
there.
got it, yes. Thank you.
I think I looked at the last one.
I would think so.
Okay, cool.
I mean, if you need to do it.
Okay, sorry.
Which airport did you go to?
The state hangar.
Everything's expected
Oh yeah, like all this is.
The judge ruled
Really?
that 5 voting sites in Nashville must stay until 10 p.m. Holy cow. Two days is gonna kill me.
Serious matters.
Good afternoon. Thank you all for being here. It's a tragic day in our state, a sad day There are 25 confirmed fatalities across our state from West Tennessee to East Tennessee. I spent the day touring and visiting with victims and walking through neighborhoods, and the devastation is heartbreaking. It's heartbreaking. It's incredible. Our prayers are greatly needed for families out there who are dealing with a sudden tragic event that has occurred in our state. At the same time, let me just say, I am proud of the response that's been made. It's from our officials, from TEMA, from Metro, from county officials in the counties, other counties affected. As you know, we have had loss of life in Benton County and Wilson County and Putnam County and Davidson County. And the officials there, the boots on the ground, first responders, have been inspiring to see them come together. From the federal government all the way to the neighborhoods, we've seen a very coordinated effort. President Trump called me personally today. The head of FEMA called me personally. Have had multiple governors from across the country reach out. We are working together. The emergency operations centers, both Davidson County and the state, are working together in a very coordinated effort. The mayor will speak in just a few minutes, as well as the director of TEMA, our emergency management operations here. But I just want to, our hearts do go out, and I want to express great concern that we have across Tennessee. I visited with folks who are helping their neighbors left and right all across this state. You know, in the worst of circumstances, the best of people comes out, and that's what we're seeing here in Tennessee. It is as we would expect. I walked up to a site that was a pile of rubble that used to be a store, and I walked up to some folks who said, and I asked them, was this their business? And they said, no, it's just where they have coffee every morning. But they were there to help the store owner rebuild his store and to clean up the rubble. So it was one inspiring example of how Tennesseans are coming together. At the same time, I talked to a victim who had to identify the body of a neighbor. And it is a remarkable situation that we have, both tragic and hopeful at the same time. The good news is that the response has been great. There are counties from across the state that are sending resources, generators coming, pallets of water coming, highway patrolmen being dispatched to places where they're needed, shelters being put up all across the state to make sure that people have a place to stay tonight who have lost their homes. There's a tremendous coordinated effort, and we're very encouraged by that. We're going to have questions and answers in a few minutes, so you can talk and we can have specifics about what is being done, what will be done, and questions that you have around that. But be encouraged. As tragic and as difficult as this day is, Tennesseans are doing what Tennesseans do, and they're coming together to redeem a really difficult place that we find all of ourselves in. I want to ask Mayor Cooper to speak. The devastation in Nashville has been significant. I toured those sites myself this morning as well, and talked to a lot of the neighbors that we share right here in Nashville. So, Mayor Cooper.
Thank you, Governor. And I'm extremely grateful to Governor Lee for his leadership and willingness to work hard and hand in hand with the city as we respond. We've heard from the White House, FEMA, Homeland Security. They've all offered their assistance, and we're very grateful. I had the opportunity myself to see more neighborhoods affected by this morning's tornado. And the damage is devastating, but I am also, like the governor, so encouraged to see Nashvillians out on the streets doing what they do best, which is to help each other. Now, I want to report back. I've been told that Hands on Nashville website has crashed 3 times due to the incredible volume of people trying to sign up to volunteer to rebuild our community. More than 5,000 individuals have signed up online to volunteer. and more signing up every minute. More than 27 companies have contacted Hands on Nashville to donate time and services. And the Community Foundation has so far received $351,768 in contributions, and this is just in a few hours. I'm grateful for that level of participation. What a testament to our city and our solidarity. Now, to facilitate efforts, today I signed an executive order for an emergency state in Nashville. That's very helpful for a city for funding, to give us the ability to fund things like overtime in the city. That's going to be very separate from other states of emergency. I want to be careful about that. But for the city, it helps us deploy funding to our fire and our police department. And it's going to streamline our ability to acquire and distribute supplies and services. And it's going to make it easier for us to respond. But I want to thank the various metro agencies and Public Works, clearing roads, water, and NES. Now, NES already has a distinct challenge. 47,000 customers are missing power. And we're going to be accountable, and we're going to get on that. And I want to thank all Metro employees and NES for the sleepless nights that they're going to have in the weeks ahead, getting us back to where we should be. And again, thank you all very much, and thank the governor and the state for providing leadership in this time of trauma for our city. But we are resilient, and we're going to rebuild. Thank you.
Patrick Sheehan is the director of TEMA. This is the operations center behind us where folks have been working all night and all day. So Patrick, I'd like you to make a few remarks about specifically what's being done to coordinate efforts across the state.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Governor. So we opened the State Emergency Operations Center last night when the storms first started moving through the middle part of the state, and with the tornado warnings, and seeing the damage and the devastation that they were causing. And we do that so that we can coordinate with our local partners and bring together state agencies and our non-governmental partners. So we've been working since the middle of the night with the Red Cross to make sure that shelters would be available and open, and with the Department of Health to make sure that we were tracking the medical needs in these communities that are being devastated by these damaging storms, and of course with 25 fatalities, and making sure that we're providing resources to those communities that are devastated by the tornadoes that have moved through overnight. When we do that, we go into a state of emergency, and in the Tennessee Code Annotated, that gives us the ability via our plans to take expedited action and to cut through red tape. And we'll be examining other needs as we move forward, but we'll also be working with the Federal Emergency Management Agency. They had a liaison officer here last night, and an incident management assistance team is on their way here now. We'll be examining, continuing to do assessments and assess damage, and working through, in a disciplined fashion, the protocols to make sure that we're documenting what we need to document to get federal aid that I think that will merit. We'll continue working in the State Emergency Operations Center 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, until such time as this immediate need is over, and we'll then continue to work for years with these communities, with the city of Nashville, and these counties to encourage their recovery. So thank you, Governor.
Thank you. I just want us all to remember as we see the pictures, and if we go out there on foot and see the piles of rubble and the devastation of buildings and neighborhoods, that behind every pile really represents people. It's businesses that have lost, it's families that are hurting, it's people that are the real that have really seen the destruction of this. And while we, all of us, can provide shelter and restore power and clean up and set a stage for recovery, hope comes from the neighbors. Hope comes not from our response, but hope comes from Tennesseans reaching out to help Tennesseans. The mayor expressed how we have begun to do that already. Neighborhoods, churches, community organizations, that's where hope for those who have really faced a devastating night, they'll find it. So we encourage everyone to engage in that at the right time in the right place. I'd like for officials from fire department, police department, NES, others to step up, and we'll entertain questions so that we can get information out to people as best as we can. That's going to be our goal over the next, as the days unfold. It's to keep people abreast. We had a press conference here this morning or at the Nashville Emergency Operations Center. Today we're doing it, this afternoon we're doing it here. Those will continue. We'll continue to provide information as the days unfold. So we want our folks out there to know exactly what's happening so they can engage. Be happy to answer your questions.
Governor, you mentioned that the death toll is 25 people now. Can you break those down? I mean, are those most still in Putnam County?
There
How many are
are, I believe, 19 in Putnam County, 3 in Wilson County, 2 in Davidson County, 1 in Benton County in West Tennessee. And let me just say, too, there are missing people. There are still people that are unaccounted for, particularly in Putnam County, and search and rescue continues there. The National Guard is on the ground there helping with both cleanup and search and rescue, along with all of law enforcement and first responders in that vicinity and in that region. So, but as it stands now, 25.
Do we have an estimate of how many are unaccounted for in Putnam County?
We don't know the specific numbers about that right now.
Do you guys have any understanding of how effective the warning systems were? We've heard from some folks that they maybe didn't get the text message or didn't hear the sirens.
You want to address that?
So sirens are an outdoor warning system, so I'll start by saying that they're not meant to be heard inside homes. They're meant to be heard when people are outside, and communities adopt and choose whether they have sirens. It's not something, so while the people in Nashville are very familiar with having sirens and how the polygons work, and some other places, communities have not opted to have sirens. So the National Weather Service, mobile phones, we're all familiar now, have wireless emergency alerting services, WEAs, and the National Weather Service was issuing alerts via the WEAs. So I have not heard problems surfaced yet, but I'm sure in the next days we'll hear how effective certain devices were. People will have things to say about carriers, but right now, as we understand it, the National Weather Service was issuing warnings as it was appropriate, and folks can opt also turn off those alarms, which are loud, and sometimes people don't like hearing them.
Were there sirens anywhere in Putnam County?
I don't know.
Local counties control their sirens. State does not control weather sirens at the local level.
If I could.
Governor, could you go over what you talked about earlier, the National Guard and what their role might be in the coming hours and days?
We will, a part of what happens here, in General Holmes, you might step up here and make remarks to that, but a lot of what happens is you assess and then determine what the next steps are. So a lot of today was assessment. I will say this, when we got to Putnam County and we saw the need for search and rescue even greater than what was originally anticipated and the amount of devastation that was there, immediately the National Guard was called out and we sent, how many troops there?
We've got 30 there now, and another 30 on the way.
30 on the ground now, 30 on the way. So as we assess and as we see the damage and the need, then we deploy resources. But you might comment further about that.
Yes, sir. So plain and simple, we have 12,000 soldiers and airmen that are citizens of this state that are serving in the National Guard. We will make every last one of those available to our communities on an as-needed basis. As the governor said, we've already deployed guardsmen, both Army and Air, in multiple locations, Putnam County primarily. We have debris removal teams that we're moving in from West Tennessee, and then the wing in Knoxville. So we're prepared and poised. We realize that the initial response is going to be some time that's needed to assess certain areas. We've already talked to Metro about possibly providing some additional manpower and soldiers there as needed. We've got a C-17 that's on standby in Memphis, ready to haul any needed supplies into any of the areas as needed. So we're available, we're actively engaged, and this is why our soldiers and airmen wear the uniform, is for this very instant. Thank you.
Governor, if I could ask a question of Chief Anderson. Mount Juliet has decided to put in a curfew starting at 6 o'clock tonight in some of the most damaged areas. Williamson County Sheriff has also specifically mentioned the danger or the prospect of possible looting. What level does that concern you in Nashville, Davidson County?
Well, certainly this department is doing everything possible to ensure the safety and security, and most of all, the peace of mind of the citizens of Nashville and Davidson County. And I've talked with Chief Hambrick in Mount Juliet. I've talked with Chief Evans in Cookeville, and I know they're doing the very same thing. At this time, we have called everybody in, no days off, 12-hour shifts, which effectively increases our force by about a third. And we've taken about 40 detectives. So essentially, we'll have two missions: our regular everyday mission, answering calls for service, investigating things that need to be investigated, but also the safety and security of those affected areas. So at this time, we're not seeing a need for curfew. Should that occur, then obviously we would reevaluate. But at this time, and this is based on our experience in the 2010 flood, 1998 tornado of similar nature. So we feel comfortable at this time with the resources that we've put in place.
If I may, I have some remarks that I missed on the reverse of my note card here. So state agencies and our partners have been also working to set up services for survivors, for those who were surviving on the storm. So the Department of Safety, for instance, is sending a mobile driver's license station so that those that have lost their driver's licenses can have them replaced. And they're going, I think they're working with the governor to waive the fees for those that need replacement. Commerce and Insurance has worked with insurance companies to have those companies set up mobile stations so that those who need to file claims rapidly will have access to that information. And the non-governmental organizations and the Department of Human Services are also setting up so that people that need those services, that need help, can have access to it in one place. And so we're trying to make sure that those things get consolidated as much as possible so that survivors don't have to go hunt for services, but they have essentially wraparound services where they're going to be sheltered or in a place that's conveniently located. And then we just had a number of organizations doing tremendous work, TDOT clearing roads, working with TVA and other organizations to make sure that the roads are safe. Troopers, I failed to say this earlier, are in each of these counties that are impacted, augmenting local law enforcement and helping keep communities safe. And the National Guard has several missions they'll be stepping into. And so I just wanted to make sure that I gave credit to those organizations where it was due.
Any other questions?
If there was one thing, Governor, and Mayor, or any of you who want to weigh in here, when you talk to folks out there, what do they need most, and what can the state or the city or FEMA provide very quickly?
You know, I think people need to have their felt needs met, right? We need to provide shelter. We need to provide security. We need to provide resources. And we're doing that as has been explained via generators or law enforcement or debris cleanup, public works, providing services to make way for people to utilize the streets. Felt needs need to be met. But then I think the other thing that has to happen is people need to have hope. They need to feel encouraged that people are going to surround them. As I talked to a person today who had lost everything that they owned completely, walking through rubble trying to find the last pieces of what they owned. And they had previously, earlier in the day, been called upon to identify bodies of victims. You realize that people out there need us to provide hope, and that's why we will provide the resources to meet those needs, the physical needs that people have, but the community will provide the hope. And we're, as we said, we're beginning to do that. We've seen a great outpouring so far, and that's what we should do, and that's what we will do. Well, thank you all. We will be, as we said, continuously providing information for for the people out there. We want folks to know exactly where to go, where to turn, how to have those physical needs met, and we want to be a provider of that information. Again, thank you for everyone who's coordinated efforts. The response and particularly the coordinated response has been impressive. It's made me proud to be in the spot I'm in, because what I get to watch are people getting it done on the ground, and that's happening in our state, and we should all be very proud of that. At the same time, we need to be very mindful of the incredible devastation and heartache and pain and tragedy that's happened to many of our neighbors out there, and let's not forget that's what's behind this rubble that we see out in the streets. So thank you all for being here. Thank you for spreading information. Be sure to reach out to all of our departments, all of our offices, if you need more information, because that's what we want. The more information we can get out there, the quicker people can recover. Thank you very much.
Probably be easiest if our news media friends exited house left, because that's the fastest way to get back out into the parking lot to your vehicles.
Just like, so we, I think it's up to 52, we down to 43,000, 27,000 right now. And so we've got 6 polls. We modified our schedule, 15 hours on, 17 hours off. So we have to pay attention to. I've got 300.